Vanesu Samunyai plays Rose Walker in Netflix's adaptation of The Sandman, and in this Goggler exclusive, we got to sit down with her to talk about making the show and what it was like taking on such an iconic comic book character. Check it out.
It's very rare that we get this amount of time to chat, so we can really get into it.
Yes.
So before we get into the nitty gritty, talk to me about your first encounters with the Sandman. I'm clearly a lot older than you are, and I think mine was when I was 13 years old, and my 13-year-old mind didn't know what I was reading, but I knew it was kind of cool.
Yeah, it is kind of cool. It's really kind of cool. I first, got into it when I got the audition, which a lot of our cast members have had a similar experience. So I started reading the comics when I got the audition, and then I stopped because I was just like, this is not wise. Let me not think too much about it. And It ended up paying off because the Rose that I portray is already kind of different from the Rose in the comics anyway. So I'm glad because, it would have messed with my rhythm. I would have tried to be like the Rose in the comics. So I paused and then I resumed after I learned that I got the role. It's, it's my first one. So that's special. And I just really enjoy it.
You know what? I'm incredibly jealous because I swear to God, if there was one comic that I could go back and experience for the first time again, it would probably be Sandman. I remember that experience. I'm so glad you talked about how Rose is different because watching the show, it reminded me how Rose is kind of the most important character in this first season because she's us, right? Before we meet her, we've only really encountered these supreme ethereal beings, and Rose is our surrogate. She's our way in, but there is a much deeper connection in the series between Rose and Morpheus than there is in the comics. And I was wondering if you could speak to how you kind of crafted all of that with Tom and Neil.
So our writers, and I suppose Neil and Alan, I'm not sure exactly why they made the decision. I should actually ask them now that I think about it, but we got to explore a deeper connection with Rose and Morpheus in the show, and I'm really happy about that because when I was reading it, I was rooting for them to have some interactions, and they only had a very small interaction before he's just like, okay, I've got to kill you now. And so they made that decision. I was very happy, because I had a meeting with Alan before I booked the role. So he talked about, the kind of deeper relationship with Morpheus. And when I was on set with Tom, we didn't discuss beforehand, but whilst we were doing it, that's when we kind of would have certain moments where we thought, okay, you know what, I think Morpheus should do this, or, oh, I think Morpheus should kind of stand in front of her. And it was just things like that, which was really nice.
I guess when you're dealing with something like the Sandman, there is an inordinate amount of pressure that's put upon you just because of the fandom surrounding this thing, right? And I wanted to know how you manage that and cope with it. Do you isolate yourself from it? Do you embrace it? Is it something you ignore while you're shooting the thing and then kind of take a deep dive when you're all done, or do you just stay away?
I will say it's so funny because everyone's been asking me that questions about pressure, and I never really thought about
because fans be crazy.
That's true. Some people definitely have very strong reactions, and I have a healthy, detachment from that. I respect the fact that a lot of people care about the comic. I've been I've been lurking on Twitter and Reddit and all of these forums.
Oh, that is such a bad idea.
I I take healthy breaks if I see that, okay, this person's just not, this isn't going anywhere. But I've been lurking, so I understand, and I understand that everyone really wants it to be good. Though I think the best comments, and if they speak the truth, is when people say, you know what, if it's bad, it's bad, and you've still got the comics to read, right? I don't think it's bad. I haven't watched it yet, but you know, we can only do the best that we can, you know, as actors, as creators of the show. And if people like it, that's great. And if people don't like it, then they're free to not like it, I guess.
You know, the Sandman explores, and I think the reason why it's connected to so many people, not just in America or the UK, but also all the way out here in Malaysia and all over the world, is because it embraces and celebrates the power of stories. And I was wondering if you could tell me how that's been important to you, because you are a storyteller.
I'm not sure if it's directly, because I appreciate it is, you know, a celebration of stories inherently because of all the stories. I like the fact that Morpheus, despite being the titular character, despite being the main character, he's not necessarily the protagonist. It's not just all about Morpheus. In fact, I would maybe go, especially in the comics, I would maybe go as far as to say it's about him, but it's not about him. And it's about all the people behind him or in front of him. There are so many stories, and he is like the glue that kind of brings it all together. He, you know, you follow him through all these stories, and you get to experience these stories because of their relation to him. But it's about so much more than that. And I love, you know, the fact that it is so much about stories. I love the mythology, such rich mythology, and I love the twists that it has. I love the way that Neil was able to incorporate the Sandman, just like randomly placing him in history. It's a very entertaining thing. And so I think I can just appreciate it just as a reader, as a writer, just as someone consuming a piece of literature, a piece of art. I love the fact that we're able to see that.
Yeah. In the series, you get to work with some tremendous, like truly tremendous people. And you spend a lot of time with Stephen Fry. Talk to me about working with this cast.
It's an amazing opportunity. Stephen is hilarious, and he's really great. He's got so many stories to tell, which I appreciate, because I'm just like, yes, I'm just this sponge and I'm soaking it all in, and I've got so much to learn as a human being. There's always so much to learn about people. And I'm fortunate enough to have worked with people who are very experienced, who have been in this industry for a long time, to be able to learn certain things firsthand. That was just a privileged experience that I was given.
No, and you did an incredible job. I mean, I think you managed to channel the Rose Walker that I had in my head and more. And I think that's kind of cool, especially for someone like, I think Sandman was one of those few comics that had an incredible impact on my life, just as a reader and a writer myself. And I was wondering, have you caught the bug? Like, if since this was the first comic that you've read, has this sent you down a rabbit hole?
It's still the only comic I've read. So I mean, I guess it's just special like that. I didn't actually get to finish it, so I'll definitely be reading it again. So I did get to fall down a comic rabbit hole. I am a big I do read manga though. And webtoons, so I've just kind of carried on with that kind of side of it.
There's just too much to go down these days. It's insane. I didn't ask, and I'm curious. I know Neil has spoken about the casting of Tom, and about how they went that full circle and looked at hundreds of different people before coming back to Tom. And what was that process like for you? Because I'm assuming, yet again, due to the pandemic, all of this must have happened over Zoom.
Yes, it did happen over Zoom. And yeah, so I don't know how many people they looked at. They usually look at, several hundred for each role, isn't it?
Which must feel really great.
I mean, it does feel great. It does feel great. Even just getting a recall and being told, hey, they want to see you again. That's just amazing. Even if you don't get the role at the end. So I sent in a tape I got the audition, I sent in a tape, and I was in Zimbabwe and I had like loads of family around. It was really noisy and I told everyone to keep it down. And my grandmother, you know, she was banging cupboards and I had to like really just plead with her. And it was dark and like there was just like one light bulb and it was kind of orange and it was just such a crusty video. But they asked for another one and I was very thankful for that. So I filmed the second one in a brighter place, and I sent that over, and then they wanted a talk. Actually, I think they wanted the talk before I sent over the second tape. So they just wanted me talking in an American accent because they wanted to see if I could do the accent. And I spoke to them about different random things. And then after, like, it all happened very quickly, I think within the span of 2 weeks. And then like,
oh, wow.
Yeah. And then like after maybe the second week, I had a meeting with Neil planned, not Neil, Alan. And we spoke about the character. He spoke about what he wanted for Rose, what he envisioned for her. After that, you know, we had a good meeting, and then he said he would, you know, show the tapes to the studio and stuff. I was like, oh, okay. So I didn't have to do any more tapes. And a few weeks after that, I got the call that I got the role. And that was a really great feeling. It was a really great thing.
Superb. Vanessa, I'm all out of time, but it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. And I just wanted to say thank you for doing such a great job bringing this thing to life. It's really quite remarkable. So yes, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Been a pleasure. Thank you, Ma.
Dreams don't die.
That was Vanesu Samunyai. She plays Rose Walker in Netflix's adaptation of The Sandman. Let us know what you think of the show once you've seen it. Sound off in the comments below. Don't forget to check out our other interviews right here on YouTube. Tell your friends, tell your family. You know what to do.